Are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The best people of all time. That's you guys. Thank you so much for starting your Tuesday with us at Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white every single day. That's right. If you missed yesterday's show, that was a lot of fun with Ryan O'Blennis of The Only Colors. We went through and did 7 true or false questions for the upcoming football season. Anything from, hey, will a 5-star commit by July, all the way till, hey, will there be more than 2 home night games at Spartan Stadium? And of course, a lot of roster stuff in between that, like will Cal Halliday be a starting linebacker? Who's going to be the second best receiver as far as receiving yards go? So a lot of good banter there. But on today's show, of course, got more fun. BetOnline.net dropped their college football win total numbers. We are, of course, going to get into those right off the bat. That'll be a fun segment, even if you're not into gambling. Segment 2, we're all over the place. We got a lot of little notes that are too little for their own segments, so we're going to string that all together. We'll call it a grab bag in segment 2. And then segment 3, we're back to Trivia Tuesday. Because, the last few Tuesdays have been a little busy lately, but the truth be told, it's not really all too around East Lane. So, we're going to get 8 trivia questions back for you to play against yourself. But before any of that, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Like you already probably know, this is the Locked On Spartans podcast. I am your host, Matt Sheehan. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you just want to yell at me, you have any advice for my golf game, or if you have a good NBA bet, because my God, that's been a nightmare. LockedOnSpartans@gmail.com is the place to find us. All right, let's get right into the meat of it. Very exciting. This is one of the most exciting moments of the offseason is when Sportsbook dropped their total win totals for college football teams. And if you're watching on YouTube, you just saw the little subhead that I put up that already spoils what it is for Michigan State. But if you're one of those people that are amazingly listening to this podcast, I'll give you a guess. What do you think MSU's over-under is going to be for the season? Regular season, just 12 games, no bowl games or conference title games included. Drumroll. 7.5 is what Vegas, or the fine folks at betonline.net rather, have Michigan State at this year. So we're going to talk about it. Why will they go over? Because I personally think they will go over that number. But first, we're going to take the devil's advocate side. We're going to talk about how maybe MSU doesn't hit this number. Because listen, if every bet was so obvious, wouldn't be doing a lot of ad reads for betonline.net. And as the old adage goes, Vegas turns their lights on one way or another, and usually it's out of the gambler's pocket. But hey, you know what? Bet responsibly. Let's have some fun. And even if you're not a gambler, I think this is a nice little segment here because, they know their stuff. They know their and so that's what they have Michigan State at right now, 7.5. Now, luckily, we all know this. If you paid attention at all to this last year did not know their stuff at all, because the over-under for wins, it actually opened up at 4.5 at BetOnline, and then it closed at 6.5 last year. Anyway, you slice it, they got 10 regular season wins. I just blew right by that stop sign right there. So let's start off. Why wouldn't MSU hit over 7.5 wins? We'll get this out of the way. This isn't the fun part of this conversation, but listen, there are some things to consider here. Like, my biggest hang up with this team coming up this season, it's that offensive line. Not even the starters. The starters are fine. It's great, but oh my, if there's a fan base out there in college football that really knows how important offensive line depth is and how fast you can go through offensive linemen, it's the Michigan State Spartan fan base. Unfortunately, we know that all too well. And you have 6 proven guys actually. When you count Brian Green, the transfer in from Washington State, you have 6 guys that you really trust in that offensive line. And behind that is a lot of unknown. I'm sure they will be good in their careers, but a lot of these guys are younger classmen too. I get a little nervous. So that's my number one biggest hang up. Number two, here's another obvious one. And here, over my shoulder, you see this new thing hung up. That's a belated birthday gift from my brother. That is Kenneth Walker over my shoulder. He ain't on the team next year anymore. And listen, truth be told, he probably won MSU 4, 5, if not 6 games last year. We had a podcast episode earlier in the offseason where we talked about that. How many games did Kenneth Walker win Michigan State? And I kind of said like 6 and 6, 7 and 5 if you don't have Kenneth Walker. Now, this isn't, to discredit anything Michigan State did. This isn't like me being a salty opposing fan being like, oh, you only won 11 games because you got Kenneth Walker. Like, yeah, we won 11 games because we won games with the players on our team. Like, that's how it works. That is how it works. But regardless, Kenneth is not, unfortunately, walking through that door. The pass defense was pretty bad last year. Needless to say, if you're one of the people that are still skeptical about it, by all means, cannot argue against you. And also, I bet you didn't have this one written down. MSU's got an unproven kicker situation going into next year. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, oh, there he goes again talking about kicking, when will this guy ever shut up about college football kicking? It's not here because, hey, 11 wins last year. That was fun. 4 of them came in a game settled by 5 points or less. That includes the Indiana game where Coughlin had some great moments. So listen, hey, these games can be close. College kicking could be the difference between a win or a loss here. Now let's talk about those wins. Why? I think MSU will blow through 7.5 wins to next season. Long list here. Let's just start right off the top. Listen, Kenneth Walker isn't back, but do you know who is? Peyton Thorne, Jaden Reed. Oh, yeah, and guys surrounding Reed like Keon Coleman, Montori Foster, if you like those young projects, or if you like an established guy, Mr. Reliable Trey Mosley, one of my favorite players on the team. Or, hey, if you fancy yourself a tight end, I think Daniel Barker is due for a big year, whether it be run blocking or pass catching. Or, hey, if you like the pass catching tight ends, how about a nice cup of Malik Carr for you? So, yeah, this offense can still be explosive, and let's just funnel it right into running back talk. It's not like Michigan State's going into next year with, 2 50-50 ticket vendors and the melting moments salesmen too. Like, no, they still have talent at the running back position. And I was one of those people that were scared at what I saw with the Peach Bowl, the running backs that weren't named Kenneth Walker. But the transfer portal, MSU did some major, major damage there. Jalen Berger from Wisconsin, former 4-star recruit. Jarek Broussard, guy who 2 years ago won a little award known as, Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year. So you figure between those two guys, will you get K9 production? Probably not. No, I would really have a hard time believing that you could just replace a Doak Walker Award winner like that. But you still have some pretty good guys there. And if you can get even like 75 or 80% of what Kenneth got you with that little lightning and thunder combo in Broussard and Berger, yeah, okay. It's not going to be all too bad. Other side of the ball, you have one of the best linebacker cores in the Big Ten. You got Darius Snow, Jacoby Windman, Aaron Brule. Oh, yeah, that's right. Cal Halliday returning from next year. Now Tiote. It's a fun time. Ben Van Sumer, if I could throw another name out there. The linebacker core. And kind of going hand in hand with that is that last year's defense was 12th in opponent yards per carry. Yes, the pass defense got a lot of headlines, not for a good reason, but let's not neglect how good they were at stopping the run. You got Big Blade clogging up the run lanes. You got Simeon Barrow. You got Jeff Petrowski and Chris Bogle on the ends taking over for Drew Beasley and Panashuk. Those are pretty good guys you could replace those two gentlemen with. And also, even behind Slade, you got like Jalen Hunt. Like, there's plenty of reason to believe that MSU can continue that run stopping success. And yeah, the pass defense was bad. Okay, it can't get any worse. How about that? How about that for some optimism? Ronald Williams was improving throughout the season before he got hurt. Lowry was solid before he got hurt. Amir Speed, a physical specimen. You got Chuck Brantley healthy. Chuck Kimbrough moving to the inside. That can only help him. And Xavier Henderson's experience. So yes, I think MSU goes over 7.5 wins. And I did a quick tally. I gave a full point for what I think will be a win, a half point for a toss-up, which I was pretty liberal with, and you'll understand here in a hot second, and then a full point for a loss. So here's my formula. I hope this makes sense. Western Michigan, chalking up as a win. Let me knock on wood before I do any of this. Western Michigan, chalk up as a win. Akron, I think, is a win. Washington, okay, toss-up. Can go either way. Minnesota, also a toss-up. I can see how you think that's an automatic win. It's also at home for crying out loud. Maryland, I think, is a win. Ohio State, I understand that's a home game, but based on last year's result, I'm going to lean just a full loss right here. Wisconsin, I have a toss-up. Michigan, toss-up. Illinois, win. Rutgers, win. Indiana, I think, win, even though that's on the road. And then Penn State to end the season, toss-up. So that's 6 wins that I see, 5 toss-ups, and then 1 loss. So with the toss-ups, half point goes either way. That's 2.5 wins and losses right there. So long story short, I got 8.5 and 3.5 for Michigan State this year, which is over 7.5. So we'll take a fly around the rest of the Big Ten to see what their over-unders are in a hot second. But I just got to talk to you, fine folks, about our friends at BetOnline.net. Yeah, hey, you've heard me talk about it up and down the last few weeks. This is the best time of year for sports betting. You've got it all, like NBA, NHL, golf is in full swing, baseball, but also, just like we talked about, college football futures, NFL futures are on the table for you. Anything you want out there. BetOnline has probably got it because they are your number one source for all your sports betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL and NCAA football futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information from live betting, playoffs, esports, and more. So head to their website today. Use your mobile device. Learn more about the trends in action. That's at BetOnline, where the game starts. And yes, we are going to start this second segment here, kind of what we were just talking about. But let's fly around the rest of the Big Ten and see what their over-unders are as we get into, a little different talking points in this segment. Again, we're going to hit on like 3 or 4 segments or topics here this segment. Really quick, bottom of the barrel in the Big Ten. This is who BetOnline.net does not like at all next season. That's Illinois. That's Indiana. That's Northwestern. That's Rutgers. All 4 are tied with just 4.5 wins. MSU plays 3 of those teams next year, so not bad. Maryland, 5.5. Okay, MSU also plays them. And then there is a cluster of teams right in the middle that BetOnline.net has at 7.5 wins, like our Spartans, and that's Minnesota, Nebraska, Iowa, and Purdue. Now, the top 4 teams in the Big Ten, BetOnline says, is Penn State with 8.5 as their over-under, as is Wisconsin. 8.5 is their over-under. Michigan at 9.5. You got to hit that with your Mickey Mouse non-conference schedule. No excuses there. And then Ohio State, 10.5. Yes, they got to go 12-0 or 11-1 for that to hit. And I am putting all my money that I own currently in that over right there. I actually just drained the 401k and pushing it right to the Ohio State over 10.5 wins because they will be a death machine this year, I think. So the long and short of it is that, BetOnline.net is projecting MSU to be the 4th place team in the Big Ten East. Yeah, it's great. MSU plays 4 of the worst 5 teams, according to BetOnline.net, but they also play, the top 4 as well. So MSU not playing like a lot of okay teams this year. They're either playing kind of jokes in the Big Ten or they're playing the cream of the crop. But hey, last year MSU was the cream of the crop, and hopefully they can carry it into this year as well. Speaking of cream of the crop, how about the fine, wealthy folks of the Detroit Economic Club? How about that for a segue? Whenever I hear that, I just think people in like 40,000 thread suits are pulling up to this thing. But no, I think this is an annual thing that every year Michigan State coaches go to the Detroit Economic Club for a nice little luncheon. The Tigers do this. I'm sure other pro sports teams do this. Regardless, they schmooze it up. They talk in front of a crowd just about what's going on with their program. And Tony Garcia, actually, he's a writer for the Free Press, wrote a really nice piece about just what they talked about the Economic Club, just the family orientation around MSU, how each different program is kind of intertwined with one another, like a lot of support being shown to other programs. Like an anecdote that Tony wrote about was, Mel Tucker showing up to gymnastic practice, and Izzo talking about how at Division II at Northern Michigan kind of need that family camaraderie. So that was a really nice piece, and also a lot of Alan Haller talk in that as well. But one thing that was actually two things interesting is that Mel Tucker brought special recognition to the nutrition program at State. And there was a quote from Haller, actually, that I just wanted to go to. It was, we go down to Miami this year, and we outplayed them all in the way into the fourth quarter, and we were the stronger team. A lot of that had to do with our team nutritionist, Amber Reinstein, and the food program she put together. Now, in the select department, the nutrition program has blown up at Michigan State. But when I was reading the story, I just always go back to that Miami game, and I think like that could be a very important game, like in the whole Mel Tucker era, because that was really the first Tuck coming game, I think, in my opinion. Sure, he beat Michigan his first year. That was awesome. He beat Northwestern as well as first year, which is a top 15 team. I had a great time watching that as well. But, listen, it was a 2-win season, wonky, COVID year. Let's see what we can get going. Okay, he picks up, nice win to start the season. That Northwestern absolutely pile drove him into the ground. Youngstown, and then it's like, okay, well, Miami, we're about 10-point underdogs. And oh my God, we just gave him the blues, the beats in the fourth quarter. Like, that was a statement win. And as the Mel Tucker tenure goes on, and as it projects as nice as we all think and hope it will, I think that's going to be a game where, that was really when it all started to come together, was that Miami game. And by come together, I don't mean just on the field. I mean, off the field, too. The enthusiasm with the fan base, that was, God, I love that game. And I'm still wiping sweat off from my body through sitting through that game. Two more things. One really quick one is that Bud Davis, this is a gentleman on Twitter who just loves analytics, seemingly. He quantified how good teams are going to be doing in June with their official visits this summer for football. And so how he did this, he took programs that have the most talent coming to official visits, combined it with cumulative recruiting talent on official visits and percentage of allocated official visits utilized. That's a long way of saying, how many guys do you have coming to campus, and how talented are these kids coming to campus? In the whole nation, would you like to guess where Michigan State lands? I hope you're holding up a number one finger, because it is first place overall. They are beating Georgia, who's in second place. They are beating Florida, who's in third place. They are beating Ohio State in fourth, Michigan in fifth, Oklahoma in sixth. Tuck's getting it done, man. Listen, if you think that all this recruiting hoopla is just in a little Michigan State vacuum, and maybe that we're just getting a little too hyped up in our own echo chamber, that's not the case. Things are really happening here. So big month coming up in June. I think right off the bat, they got 2 5-stars coming in that June 3rd weekend. The next week in the June 10th, 11th weekend, it's 7 4-stars coming to town. It's a hoot and a half. We'll try to get Justin Thin on before the month of June officially kicks off, so he can give us the full debriefing, as he always does. And speaking of debriefing, let me just take a not so smooth segue to this next one. This is actually an email, an awesome email from Gavin, who writes in at lockdownspartans@gmail.com. And he says, and this is about MSU's basketball assistant coaching hunt. I was talking to my old man this last weekend about Tom Izzo and the off-season's woes, and I think he brought up a good point. I was explaining how he hasn't seemed to make an effort to fill Dwayne Stevens' spot on the bench, but my dad believes that he is thinking ahead to who will replace him when he retires. He thinks he may just leave the assistant coach spot empty until he can get someone who will ultimately take his place. This could be Valentine, or maybe a young coach. By Valentine, of course, that's Drew Valentine, head coach at Loyola. I'll snip that right now. I mean, I don't think it will be Drew Valentine because, and I've said this earlier at a podcast maybe a month ago, this is how long this assistant coaching search has been going on for. So if I sound like a broken record player, it's because I've said it before, but I don't think Michigan State would necessarily insult Drew like that to call a head coach to take an assistant job. And I don't think Drew would answer. either. Because listen, I know Loyola's a small school. It's a small school, and Michigan State's a big basketball powerhouse. But being a head coach there is eons better than being an assistant coach at Michigan State. With that said, I do think Drew is 100% someone that's going to be in their sights when Izzo leaves, whether that's 2023, 2043, whatever it is. I would be actually a little surprised if Drew is not the first, if not the second name there. Now, with that said, I think it will be a young assistant coach, and this is based on everything I've heard through the cracks, through different people that are just spewing out the same names as to who the final assistant spot is down to. And the names are Chris Fowler. He is an assistant coach at Northern Arizona right now. He spent 2 years on Izzo's staff as a grad assistant before 2020 when he went to Northern Arizona. Thomas Kelly, same situation. Assistant coach at Western Michigan, grad assistant for MSU for 2016 to 2018. You also got Maurice Joseph, who actually started his playing career at Michigan State from 05 to 07, but since has bebopped around to George Washington. Right now, he's the assistant coach at Richmond. Last but not least, you don't have to think too far away for this guy's name. It's Tum Nairn. Apparently, has been a guy that has been named in this assistant coaching search. Right now, Sunrise Christian Academy head coach. Yes, that's a high school, but yes, that's also a powerhouse high school. They're a factory. Tum, all that we heard about him at State was just how much he was loved by his teammates, anyone that talked to him, for crying out loud. So, yeah, sure, he would fill in nicely for an assistant role there. It's just, would they really go that young and that inexperienced in the college ranks? But why not? So, love that question. Gave me an excuse to talk about assistant coaching. And, it won't be Drew Valentine on the bench, but maybe will be as a head coach in the future. It's what I'm hoping for. I like how things are going over there down at Loyola. So as we flip the page here to the next segment, really quick, just got to talk to you, fine folks, about Rock Auto before we get to Trivia Tuesday, that is. Gang, we've been talking your ear off about Rock Auto for quite some time, and for a great reason, because they're just simply the best. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it is now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. That's right. Why often endorse seemingly intimidating questioning or pointless questioning like, oh, does your F-150 need a boobat bloopers? I don't know. That could be a truck part, a car part. I'm not a car person whatsoever. I know that my car takes gas. I know that it's blue, and I know that it has a steering wheel. That's right. Those are the three things I know about my car. Luckily, if you're like me, you don't have to be a car person. You could just trust the fine folks at Rock Auto to hook you up with, the car parts, but also great deals. Because why would you choose to spend 30, 50, or even 100% more for the same part from a chain store or car dealership? You would only do it if you were a big circus clown. But you're not a big circus clown. You are a smart person that uses rockauto.com. So go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right locked on in there. Hey, how'd you hear about us box? So they know that we sent you. That's right. Amazing selection. Reliably low prices, as I got tripped up on that for the 100th time in the last year. Reliably low prices. All the parts your car will ever need. That's rockauto.com. Gang, it's Tuesday. And that means it's Trivia Tuesday. And that means it's 8 questions about Michigan State coming your way. Hopefully the difficulty is fine. I haven't had anyone, email me or comment below on YouTube or reach out to me on Twitter, screaming at me about how hard these are or how easy they are if you're a really big MSU aficionado. But let's get into it. Let me know how you did. Comment below if you're watching how you did. It's 8 questions. You're playing against yourself. And let's try to improve week to week here. Question number 1. Name the 3 NFL franchises Mel Tucker has worked with. Simple as that. Number 1. Name the 3 NFL franchises Mel Tucker has worked with. Question number 2. Since 2010, only one Spartan has won 2 bowl game MVP awards. Question number 2. Since 2010, only one Spartan has won 2 bowl game MVP awards. Who is it? And no, the Big Ten Championship game is not a bowl game, so it's not Connor Cook. Question number 3. In the 2015 Final Four run, Travis Trice led the team in scoring in 3 games. Well, who led the team in scoring in that first game of the tournament against Georgia? That's right. Travis Trice led the team in scoring 3 games in that 2015 Final Four run. Who led the team in that 4th game, which was the first game of the tournament against Georgia? Question number 4. What does Izzo have more of? Years he coached the Big Ten Player of the Year winner or Big Ten tournament titles? What does Izzo have more of? Years he coached the Big Ten Player of the Year winner or Big Ten tournament titles? Number 5, what's a higher number? That's right, another this or that question. What's a higher number? Draymond Green NBA playoff double-doubles or Tom Izzo tournament wins, NCAA tournament wins? What's a higher number? Draymond Green NBA playoff double-doubles or Tom Izzo NCAA tournament wins? Question number 6. 2 former MSU dual sport athletes went on to play in the NFL. Name them. 2 former MSU dual sport athletes went on to play in the NFL. Go ahead and name them for me. Number 7. Kenneth Walker scored all 5 touchdowns against Michigan last year. In case you forgot, that's right. So who was the second to last Spartan to score a touchdown against Michigan? Question number 7. Kenneth Walker scored all 5 touchdowns against Michigan last year. So who's the second to last Spartan to score against Michigan? And last but not least, question number 8. MSU won all 3 of its rivalry trophy games last season. What was the biggest deficit, or biggest margin of victory, I should say? MSU won all 3 of its rivalry trophy games last season. What was the biggest margin of victory in those 3 rivalry trophy games? Start from the top. It's answer time. Hope you're ready. Hope you scribbled them down, or hope you just start thinking about them at the top of your head. Question number 1. Mel Tucker. Hey, who are the 3 NFL teams that he has worked with? That would be Cleveland Browns, Jacksonville Jaguars, Chicago Bears. That's right. 3 sterling NFL franchises right there. Question number 2. Since 2010, only one Spartan has won 2 bowl game MVP awards. Who is it? It's Brian Lewerke. It's Brian Lewerke. Yes, you would think that Connor Cook won in that Cotton Bowl against Baylor or something, but no. The offensive and defensive MVP in that game were both Baylor Bears. They must have tabulated the voting with like 6 minutes left in the 4th because, well, it didn't work out. But yes, Brian Lewerke, Holiday Bowl MVP, Pinstripe Bowl MVP. Let's go White Lightning. Question number 3. In the 2015 Final Four run, Travis Trice led the team in scoring in 3 games. Who led the team in scoring in that first game of the tournament against Georgia? That would be Denzel Valentine. He had 16 points, in case you were curious. But yes, it wasn't Brandon Dawson, it wasn't Matt Costello. It was the future National Player of the Year, Denzel Valentine, with a smooth 16 points. Question number 4. What does Izzo have more of? Years coaching the Big Ten Player of the Year or Big Ten tournament titles? That would be Big Ten. No, sorry, Player of the Year. Big Ten Player of the Year. That's right. Sorry, I took my eye off the ball there. Mateen Cleaves in 98. Mateen Cleaves in 99. Maurice Peterson in 2000. Kalen Lucas in 09. Draymond Green in 2012. Denzel Valentine in 2016. Cassius Winston in 2019. That's 7 years he coached the Big Ten Player of the Year. He only has 6 Big Ten tournament titles, if you know that at the top of your head. Now, what's a higher number? Draymond Green NBA playoff double-doubles or Tom Izzo NCAA tournament wins? Tom Izzo has 53 NCAA tournament wins. Draymond Green, 57 NBA playoff double-doubles. So, wow. Yeah, that would be Draymond Green. He wins that one. Number 6, MSU dual sport athletes want to play in the NFL. Name them. It's Deion Sims, drafted by the Dolphins, and then Matt Trannon, who went undrafted to the Arizona Cardinals. So Deion Sims and Matt Trannon for that one. 2 to go. Kenneth Walker scored all 5 touchdowns against Michigan last year. So who is the second to last Spartan to score against Michigan? That would be Connor Hayward. That's right, on a pass from, I almost said Brian Lewerke. Rocky Lombardi. That's right, if you remember the screen pass, just dipsy-do, Dunkaroo himself right into the goal line to ice the game against Michigan back in, 2020, because it happens often around these parts. Question number 8. MSU won all 3 of its rivalry trophy games last season. Who was the biggest margin? What was the biggest margin of victory, or who was it against? It was Indiana, who they only beat by 5 points. They only beat Michigan by 4, and they only beat Penn State by 3. So there you have it. Hopefully you did okay. Let me know how you did in the YouTube comments below. Email me if the difficulty needs to be ramped up or ramped down, or hit me up on Twitter if you just want to just yell at me just to yell at me. Hey, I'm here for you guys. I'm a man of the people. If you got to get something off your chest, send it my way. Or if you have any questions like our guy Gavin did, send them on over as well. On tomorrow's show, we're going to have Graham Nelson on. He's been on this podcast many a time during the basketball season. We're going to do a bracket. That's right. Of Tom Izzo's 8 Final Four teams. We're going to just go head-to-head and determine a winner. I'll let Graham decide who's going to win, but yeah, we'll talk about it, and then we'll get to, I'm sure, some other MSU basketball banter as we do with Graham. A great guy to talk with. Later this week, who knows? It's in God's hands at this point. I reached out to Mel Tucker on Twitter, seeing if he wanted to be on the Locked On Spartans podcast. Didn't hear a no yet. So, didn't hear a yes, but didn't hear a no yet. So we're, hopeful-ish for that one. But hey, until then, thanks a lot for making Locked On Spartans your first listen every single day here in the Locked On Podcast Network. Now go make your second listen. Locked On Big Ten. It's with my guy, Nate Dickinson. Does a great job at keeping everyone up to speed with what's going on inside the Big Ten Conference. And just like this show, it's free and available on all platforms. Love every single one of you. Go Green.